All right, guys, just a quick video tonight. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Thursday, August 1st. We have our Tribeca Trade Group member appreciation night tonight, so have to run out the door and looking forward to the event. We've got a really nice event planned for this evening for members. So just to kind of quickly go over the price action today, yeah, major turnaround again today, and the one thing I will say about obviously the tweet from Trump talking about increasing tariffs really affected the market pretty heavily. And the one thing I'll say about this, and I think I had mentioned this previously, either one night in one of the videos. I know that I think I said it in yesterday's pre-market session, was that I thought I put a 40% chance, and maybe that was too low, for Trump adding new tariffs because no deal was reached, and the face-to-face meeting that we heard a lot about abruptly ended very quickly. So maybe those odds were a little bit too low, but I was thinking that there was a decent chance. I think I said 40 or 50%, probably 40% chance that more tariffs would be enacted as retaliatory for not getting anything done. You remember he decided to halt the tariffs once they said that they were going to be negotiating, and now that the negotiations seems like nothing has got done, we see the result of that. And and it had a decent impact on the market. So taking away from the lessons of the day is that if you were up decently in P&L, if you have if you have a long based portfolio, it was one of those days where you try to take as many targets, and I tried to do that. I adjusted some trades. I was long. I can only basically tell you what I did for the day, but I was long ATVI, which didn't actually close that poorly relative to everything else. Still finished it up 3%, but I was long options, and I actually took the options off and went into stock. Because again, they're going to be reporting earnings in about a week, but the options are just too volatile for especially for headline risk and so forth. Now again, I had no idea that this was going to happen this afternoon, but I think just doing a little bit of adjustments like that, I do think help a little bit with this market. So I did want to go over the technicals because it is what it is, right? We can't control. We can't control obviously these tweets and so forth, in actions that again there's no way that we can kind of control, and they're unpredictable. The only thing that we can do is kind of control what we can control, which is our risk and levels that we're going to monitor in our trading system. So I was saying at the end of yesterday that the level to watch 29.73. Well, that level is broken. I did put on a little bit of SPY calls today, which I'm kind of stuck in a little bit. So that was my screw up for the day, probably because I was not able to get out of them. We just didn't get enough of a bounce for me to get out of them. But for more like positioning other than just for today, I would be very mindful that we have now broken value. The put call ratio, there was a lot of puts. I think the put call ratio ended around somewhere around 1 for today, meaning everybody was buying puts after that announcement. We did see another big VIX order again today. And a lot of these orders, they have open interest, but we mentioned this one as it went up. So again, it has 405,000 open interest. So it's very, very difficult to figure out what they're doing. But I thought that was odd, right around 12 o'clock. But I would imagine that somebody went ahead and put on another big VIX position in light of what happens, because sometimes this information apparently does get leaked from time to time. But that's another wallop size trade, $2.3 million. So what about everything else? So that was the S&P, finished down 1%. So we're starting to correct a little bit. Next level to watch is probably that 50-day moving average on the downside. Before I move over to the Qs, yeah, we'll see how we got one more day for the week. It's just kind of crazy the way that today finished up. And the Qs also are going to be below value. They weren't down that much, down a 0.5%. It's just again the move that we were up. We were up decently today. I mean the candle, from here is the open, but I mean the range explored today is pretty. And that's why on Twitter, like I never do any victory laps with this stuff because it could change in a moment. So I'm just not about doing the victory laps that we saw a lot of people doing this afternoon or this morning about the market. Was I surprised? Someone asked me earlier. They said, yeah, and everybody knew that this was going to happen or whatever. I said, hey, I was surprised that we bounced as much today. I was pleasantly surprised that we bounced as much as today. I thought it would have taken a couple days, kind of like a bad earnings report, right? When you have a bad earnings report, sometimes it takes a couple days for the market to kind of process the information, and then sometimes the stock bounces. But so this also changed before I just finished for the day. This also changed the expectations, which were already moving pretty decently. There's now a 91% chance that they're going to cut rates. Again, this is what Fed Fund Futures is implying. Whether I agree with this is a whole other thing, but they're now implying a 91% chance that they're going to cut. This moved significantly. I think it was around a 50 or 60% prior to that Trump tariff tweet. Sorry. What else? A couple other things that were really moving around a lot, and then we'll finish. Oh, let me go to IWM. IWM, yeah, also finished right at the bottom of value. So, that whole rally has been taken out the last 2 days now as well. Thank goodness I'm not in that trade anymore. I did take that trade off yesterday. I had good timing on that one. Not good timing on everything, but good timing on that one. That's the Russell. Then I just wanted to go over the dollar move that actually finished down on the day. It was up about a 0.5%, so big currency moves. That now finished down. TLT, which I think is now, we talked about this in yesterday's video as a move out of this consolidation and picking up to the upside. So what I would, and there's a fresh MACD crossover here as well, which indicates that the bonds may be going up more and the yield curve may be flattening further. 138.61 is the VPOC that I put out on Twitter this morning, even before we got this bigger thrust higher in this one. The VIX, just looking at where this finished for the day, a little bit off the highs, but again, those VIX call buyers that we've been talking about day after day have now been rewarded pretty handsomely, I think. Also, if you look at the VVIX, the volatility, the derivative of the VIX itself, this also stretching up pretty decently. And we'll see. We don't know if China is going to retaliate. The one other thing I was going to show is credit spreads, which didn't have that much of a move yesterday. I think credit spreads are always good to look at. They did edge up this today, so I would think that they did. I could tell you from the summary that I put out this morning, there was some knee-jerk reactions in ETF fund flows, big outflows in emerging markets, over $1 billion this week, which again, in the grand scheme of things, is not that large for emerging markets, but it's an uptick from that. Also, HYG had a very large the one ETF that we're looking at here that's in the denominator, we did see a very large outflow, 1 day outflow yesterday in HYG, the high yield credit ETF. And then the third thing was actually an outflow in XLU, which I thought was interesting yesterday, which did come back, was up 1% today. Gold, last thing to look at, because again, a lot of macro moves. Gold now took out the highs. I mean, what a what a reversal in gold. I was long GDX and I have some GLD on. I took the GDX off into strength, which you got a nice bullish engulfing. I just wanted to take something off that I was up a lot in after a big, up 5% from being down earlier. So I may decide to kind of put that trade back on, but these options, you have to stay very nimble in these options. And sometimes just letting them sit you got to capture some gains, like I was talking about in ATBI. So anyway, it's a quick 10-minute video for today's market. We'll see what tomorrow brings. But bottom line, take these things one day at a time. Have a bigger picture and make adjustments when the market changes. Do not be stubborn in this market. Of course, the video for information purposes only. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.